wake up. From Jerusalem, Israel, this is From the Midwest to the Middle East, the podcast that explores everything new in U.S. and Israeli economy. Here's your host, Philip Stein.
I'm really pleased to be having this podcast today. First of all,
this episode is brought to you by Philip Stein and Associates, the largest U.S. CPA firm in Israel, providing U.S. tax services to Israelis, Americans, corporations, startups, and anyone else needing them.
I'm very excited today to be speaking with someone much younger than me, which is not always the case. They're always younger than me, but not much younger, that much younger than me. And instead of giving an introduction about degrees and work experience, I'm going to just start. This is a conversation with a young man who has really some great ideas that are very fitting for the times that we're in, particularly post-October 7th. So without any further ado, I want to introduce Roee Azizi. Welcome.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
And I think everyone's going to find what you have to say, what you're doing, your ideas to be, as I found very interesting when we met a few weeks ago. So I'll start, Roee, from a very personal perspective. You know, on Sundays, maybe you don't know this, in the fall, it's the season of American football. So usually Sunday nights, that's where you'll find me. I don't expect you to be versed in this very Americanist sport. However, there is a famous saying about American football that says the best defense is a good offense. And it seems that in the past year, Israel has really been trying to defend itself from international public opinion, and its leadership always seems to be on the defensive. However, you saw the past year as an opportunity to go on the offensive and start a new remarkable project having to do with the Western Negev. So I really want you to share with my listeners, as starting our conversation off, about this initiative, which I found so fascinating.
Wonderful. First of all, thank you for that stage. And I love the name of your podcast. I guess it's the story of my generation, I must say. I think that my generation, the young adults in Israel, the ones who were grown up in the 90s and early 2000s, we experienced in various ways and in various fields of life, we experience an ongoing crisis in a way. Financially or economically, youngsters in Israel can't see themselves buy a house. They can't imagine where they will grow up their children. In terms of security issues, I mean, it's obvious, especially after October 7th, the level of crisis that we're in. And also in other fields. And I must say that, and obviously socially and politically, after the turmoil of the last few years. And after October 7th, I think that my generation have realized that this event, this horrible event that happened to us, must be translated to an opportunity to come from that crisis, from that mashber, into, and hizdamnut, into
opportunity.
An opportunity. And I think that that's an historic disruptive event that happened to us. As my generation realizes, we cannot live on the same way we used to live until October 7th. A life where we are well focused on only on our economical development, or regarding our careers, and basically thinking about ourselves and our families. We must have a spiritual movement within ourselves, within our souls, in which we say that we must live for a bigger cause. We must live for a bigger, even I must say, like a picture of us as a nation. And I feel like once our generation have shown from October 7th in the military, but also in the social activity sphere, and in the civic society, I think that generation basically says we have to be on offense. And to put it in easier words, the Western Negev could have, chas v'chalila, gone to a place where it's a neglected region, where people don't want to go to live in after what happened there, especially when the security issue is still unclear. And I think that my generation basically wanted to say, we are going to live there and make it to the most prosperous region in Israel. And this is how I started. And this is the story basically of my initiative. during my military service now as a reserve from October 7th up until, I don't know, half a year ago, I've understood in parallel to my service that I'm gonna leave my life in Jerusalem, my job, my friends over there. I'm gonna leave everything in order to go make that step by myself in that uncertainty, in order to go and live there in the Western Negev, in the Gaza envelope. And once I will make that step as a Nachshon who jumps in the water, I know that other will join. And that's the background of the initiative up until now.
All right, so let's talk a little geography. I mean, obviously, the people here in Israel know it quite well, but even I think people might be surprised that if you get on Road 6 today, or as we call it in Hebrew, Kvish Shesh, you can go from Tel Aviv to Sderot in a little over an hour, okay?
Right.
Why do you think the Western Negev is still viewed as what we call the periphery?
Yeah. I'll even add a note where if you go straight from Ayalon, which is the high line in Tel Aviv, and you go
Right,
straight, which at some stage it turns into Kvish Arba, road number 4, then you go
right.
straight all the way till junction Yad Mordechai, and then 10 minutes from there you're in Sderot, which means that you don't even go further to Kvish Shesh. Anyway,
Okay, so that people can save the toll. Okay.
yeah, Israel, I mean, consciously is divided into periphery and center in a way that I can't explain. You know, if you take the map of Israel and you cut it into half and you look at, you try to look where's the middle is actually, you know where?
No.
At around Kiryat Gat or Be'er Sheva.
Interesting.
Geographically, Tel Aviv is not in the center.
Uh-huh.
Geographically, Be'er Sheva, which you know is considered the capital of the Negev, that's actually the center of the land of Israel. So of the country of Israel. So anyway, I feel like in the stages of the establishment of Israel, where people just, you know, as part of the Zionist mission, as part of the Zionist movement and other movements, people just went there to the periphery, to the Israeli front, to the one that was not the, now it's the Israeli frontier, to just go there and put there a camp, just to start a village, to start a town. Then different people from different backgrounds made it there. There was the one who went to the kibbutzim, and the ones who went to start those towns. And unfortunately, nowadays, in the it's part of the conversation about not only the geographical periphery but the social periphery inside Israel, which means that it's not necessarily that Sderot is far away from Tel Aviv, because it's not, but it's maybe culturally and in terms of financial or other backgrounds different than the people who live in Tel Aviv or around Gush Dan in general. And that's a source of a problem, and that's a problem also that we, and by saying we, I mean Hinenu, our initiative, that's also a thing that I want to change, because I want to create same opportunities for people who grew up in Sderot and who grew up in Tel Aviv, because my generation cannot be focused only on the center, only on Gush Dan,
Mm-hmm.
only in Tel Aviv.
Mm-hmm.
That my generation needs to understand that if 100 years ago people went to the Israeli frontier to hold it and to hold our borders, then we need to do exactly the same step, but not only to hold the borders, but to create financial prosperity over there, and to create educational prosperity over there, and just turn those places into hubs which are independent and not only necessarily dependent on Tel Aviv.
So you've shared with me, we've spoken before about this need for, I don't know if it was a term you used or it's a term that you see every so often, this Zionism 2.0. Okay. What do you think happened to Zionism 1.0?
I think it fulfilled its mission.
Mm-hmm.
Its mission was to establish a state, a miklat, a bait laumi for Am HaYehudi, for the Jewish people. I think it fulfilled its mission. I think it's a miracle. It's the only miracle that we as a people, I think, have witnessed in the modern times. And I think that the term Zionism 2.0 really means that after we have established a state, we have to establish a society. We have to understand how that people who's actually came from all the continents to live here, people who were spreaded for 2,000 years. How do we not only bring them here and try to make it safe for them, which obviously still haven't made completely?
Right.
How do we put a common vision that allows them to, go forward and try to achieve together? And before October 7th, actually, as everyone knows, the social, judicial, political turmoil that we were in emphasized that we are still on the way. We're still on the way to creating these bridges between different parts and different perspectives in our people and in our society as well. Not only the Jewish part of our society, and there's a way to do it. And I think that there's a straight line between October 7th to what was the situation beforehand. I think that unfortunately the terror organizations who decided to attack us, they saw that we're a bit weak from within. And we know our history. We know that in the history of the Jewish people, every time that we were weak from within, that was the main problem. That was the core issue that led us to what it's led. So that's Zionism 2.0.
When we first began this conversation, you had a reference, a biblical reference to Nachshav ben Anidav, who was the first person to supposedly jump into the Red Sea.
Right.
So I'll move it up a bit to the prophets, and there's the famous story in Jeremiah, Yirmiyahu, during the first temple, which is about to be destroyed, and the notables of Judean society have been exiled to Babel, to Babylonia. However, Jeremiah gets this commandment to go buy land in his hometown in the midst of this really dark period and a period one could be very pessimistic. Do you notice a certain pessimism amongst your generation when it comes to, you mentioned it before, purchasing a home during the past few years? Is the Western Negev, and maybe you'll just give a little more details of how you envision this, an answer to these problems?
100% yes, in my opinion. And I'll try to relate to the Israeli periphery in general.
Okay.
As I see my generation, there's a very clear path of life. You grow up, you gain fine education, decent education. You usually go to serve in the army. Once you finish the army service, you go abroad and you travel a bit. It's all cool. And then you try to think, okay, what do I want to do with my life? And in that step, you seek meaning. And practically, you might choose to go to have higher education, university or college or whatever. And afterwards, and in parallel to seeking meaning, you also ask yourself, where do I want to live my life? Not only what's my lifestyle going to be, but where do I want to do it? And then usually after people spread at the age of 22, 23, 24, after people spread to the north to study in Tel Chai College, to go to Jerusalem in the Hebrew University, Beersheba, Ben Gurion University. After they spread for a few years and they gained their degree, then they ask themselves, okay, where do I want to build a family? Where I might find a relationship to build a family? Where can I find a decent job? And usually those questions, unfortunately, lead everyone to Tel Aviv. Now, I want to say Tel Aviv is a Zionist masterpiece. I think Tel Aviv is one of the best cities in the world. But Israel cannot rely only on Tel Aviv. Israel must create another hubs, must create more flourishing ecosystems in Jerusalem, in Haifa, and Beersheba, and I think on the Western Negev. So I think what October 7th did, it created an opportunity for the young generation to understand, okay, I can go to live in a kibbutz, or I can go to live in a moshav, or in a town, in the Gaza envelope, where it has, let's call it the village scene. I mean, you live inside nature. You live in a small place. You know everyone. You gain these lives that the center of a big city cannot allow you. But not only that, you can go and live in such an environment. You can also live a life of meaning and quality of life in terms of employment opportunities, in terms of a community to be a part of. And that's what Hinenu, my initiative, is trying to do. We try to encourage people to say Hinenu, here we are, or here I am, as they say in the Tanakh, Hineni, to do that step. and live in the Israeli frontier. Nowadays, we're walking on the Western Negev. In a year or two, we're gonna move also to the north. We're working on it right now, actually, while we're preparing. And once I've done that step and I went to live in the Israeli frontier, then me as the manager of that initiative, I'm trying to help those people who are moving, who have already moved. I try to help them with employment opportunities, decent housing opportunities, and also building a community. And then we have a model of a society of youngsters who are getting involved and implementing in the current communities. I mean, we're not building new villages, we're not building new groups or of settlements. We want to encourage a movement of people who will join current communities in the kibbutzim, in the moshavim, and in the cities. But we want to create this regional community, this ma'atefet, this framework that will allow youngsters to feel like they haven't done this step by themselves. They have an opportunity to have a quality of life here, but also live a life of giving, a life of meaning, a life where they can be active socially for the place that they live in. And in that context, we're also working on building this Bet Midrash, this community center in which people can also come and meet and learn and gain hope from looking back at our, Torah and other fortunes, Osher, the Osher Tarbuti. So that's basically the vision.
It's very interesting, your vision, when, they've talked so much about particularly the older people that were taken on October 7th, by Hamas, and those who are still alive, those who were released, those who unfortunately died. When you read about their lives in terms of those things, how they were so involved in their communities, whether it was, any of those communities on the Otef, how they volunteered, how they helped people. That, in other words, when people spoke about them, unfortunately for many in the past tense, those were attributes that very much came out. So it really flows into your vision to sort of your generation, sort of stepping into the shoes of that generation who's, one or two ahead of you. I know you're also involved in some other interesting initiatives. I don't know when you sleep, but can you share them just in general with my listeners, in addition to the Hinenu and what your plans for the Western Negev?
Yeah, I am involved in some more initiatives. I will relate to one. There's an initiative that's called Tikvatenu, which means our hope. That initiative started before the war, before October 7th. We're a bunch of friends, some religious, some secular, some right-handed politically, some left-handed politically. And we realized, again, before the war, that Israel is in a situation that's unsustainable in a way. And we asked ourselves, what can we do looking 50 years ahead in order to try to bring a solution to that problem? And we've started by understanding that it has to be a lifelong mission. And that's when we've gathered for an assembly, for a group of 30, 35 youngsters, aged 25 to 35 approximately, people who are, let's call it pioneers in their field, people who come from different backgrounds and different fields professionally, but they're pioneering, they're leaders in their fields. We've gathered them into an assembly with the saying that we must work on finding a mutual vision for Israel. And by saying mutual vision, it's not just writing a story, because we have to have a concrete, practical implementation of that vision. But the stage that we're in right now, after we've gathered that group and we've been meeting for the past year, is where we are in a research stage, where we try to dive deep into the core problems of us as a people, but by the way, abroad and in Israel. I mean, the Jewish diaspora as well, obviously, is considered, and as a state. And we try to look on all of those big, deep questions. We try to learn from the most famous and considered people in Israel who deal in those fields. And we try to ask ourselves, how do we build a vision where the two parts of the Israeli society can go towards. And it's in a very, very, very early stage. We have a lot of patience and we want to go for the long run. But basically, our aim is to try to create, again, a vision that can connect between the two parts and even also try to grow the next leaders, looking at 5, 10, 20 years ahead. So that's another initiative that I'm a part of.
Great. We're getting near the end of the podcast, but I have a couple more questions. If we were to meet 10 years from now, what would you expect to share with me?
I hope that I'll be able to tell you that every person in Israel did something great, or at least did something for the common good, for the better good, after realizing the lesson from October 7th and the lesson from the reality that we lived in before October 7th. And I hope that I'll be able to tell you that as part of Hinenu, we have a community, a network of thousands of youngsters who have decent lives in the Israeli periphery and where they choose to live together and to be active in the place that they live in. And it's regardless of their diversity, regardless of the differences between their political agendas or their religious background, they understand that we have a Zionist mission to fulfill together, and they're actually active in fulfilling that mission. And I wanna hope that we'll be able to create a bsora, a hope, where there's this model of youngsters really tell the Israeli society, like, remember where we were before October 7th? Look at what we are, look at where we are right now. And look at what we can achieve if we will be united. And basically that's what I'm dedicating my life for. And I hope that I will achieve at least part of it in the upcoming future.
Tovarach, you should be blessed. You know, you use the term, and it may just be a Hebrew English thing, youngsters, okay, which is usually, preteens. But when you're thinking about the demographic of the person that would be interested in the Hinenu initiative, the Western Negative Initiative, which I'll call, is it someone who's post-army? Is it someone who came back from the trip from South America or the Far East? Is it the people fortunate enough to have met their, Ben or Bat Zug, and now are looking to start the next stage of their family? Who are you looking for in terms of your what we say in Hebrew, kahal yad? So your target demographic.
Yeah. So there are various colors, I think, or types in that target audience, but basically, I think that people who are approximately aged 24, 25, up until, let's say, 35, who are asking themselves, like, where do I want to build my life for the long term in a place where I'll have high quality of life and also a life of meaning and a life of giving. So that's like, I mean, one type or one general definition. Inside that, I want to say students who study in Sderot, in Sapir College, I'm trying to do whatever I can in order to make them stay, to live in a place that they already came to live in the kibbutzim or in Sderot. I'm looking also north, so same regarding the young adults over there. I think that's in general, like people aged 23, 24, 25 up until 35 who are asking themselves those questions, and obviously are, in terms of their core values, understand that they need to be a part of a bigger, diverse community with a Zionist mission to try to unite our society.
All right, so we've come to the end, but I want you to share just to my listeners. There's a lot, I think, that people would be interested more than I covered in our short conversation. How do they read more about you? How do they get in touch with you?
I'm not a big social media fan,
Okay.
say the least, but we do have both an Instagram and a Facebook pages where people can follow. We're working on building a website. And I think the best way to reach out is just writing me an email or a WhatsApp message. So I'll obviously leave my details for you. I do want to add another note.
Sure.
As we say in Hebrew, acharon chaviv, which means that the last note is the best. And it relates to your question about demographic. I'm not looking only on young Israelis. I'm also looking on young adults from abroad, from the Jewish.
Great. Okay, very important.
Because if we in Hinenu want to build a Chevrat Mofet, a community that really is the best example of a Jewish Israeli community that we can build, then I want to bring people who want to do Aliyah. I want them to do Aliyah la Negev, straight to the Negev, straight to the Western. And I'm working on it also right now. So if people are interested in doing Aliyah straight to Hinenu, please reach out.
All right, so in terms of that Instagram, in terms of the Facebook page, is it English, Hebrew?
Most of the content is in Hebrew, you're right.
Okay.
Look it up. Yeah, Hinenu is Hey Nun Nun Vav, and in English it's Hinenu.
Okay. And if you'll just speak, I'll put it on our website, but if you could just give your email quickly.
Yeah, sure. My email is ROEE AZIZI 51@gmail.com.
Okay, terrific. So, Roy, thank you. We wish you, I think your success will be success for all of us, particularly those in Israel, but I think as you mentioned at the end, also those in the diaspora. We need something new, and we need something, I think that everyone likes to see new things being built, whether it be a road or a building. This is obviously more intangible, but at the end of the day, I think if you think about the Jewish experience, we always took pride in the border communities, okay? They had very rich history, and I think it seems to your initiative seems to be an opportunity to rebuild this, like you say, in a Zionism 2.0. So I wish you great success, and we look forward to hearing more from you.
Thank you so much for that wonderful stage.
I hope you enjoyed our podcast. Feel free to visit us at www.pstein.com or look for Philip Stein and Associates on Facebook and LinkedIn.